Hola amigos, welcome to my Path of Exile 2 series. And this is something I started because I wanted to just have a little bit of fun with Path of Exile 2, making some videos. I've been making videos here lately and been spending some time with this game, really digging it. There's only so much time for gaming, so this is going to be my main game here for a little bit. And so far, I've created 5 out of the 6 character classes that you can choose. I'm going to go ahead and select the last class here, which is the Ranger. And we're going to go ahead and go through the beginning here. This is a tutorial for beginners. If you don't know where to start and you're curious about how to get going, that's what we're going to do here with these videos, is try to give you some insight on how to play Path of Exile 2. Right now, it's still in early access, but soon enough, it will be free to play. And so if you're a beginner and you're not sure where to start, let's see what we can do to help you out. So first off, we're going to create our Ranger character. We're going to give her a name. I'm just going to need a moment here to think about what we're going to call her. And I'll just be clicking pause here from time to time when necessary. So let's just do that here real quick. Okay, I went for shameless self-promotion here for the name of our character. We're calling it Electrolume AI Radio. And let's just go ahead and hit continue. All right, time to make our escape. And yeah, this is just something that I want to do to have a little bit more of a conversation with anybody who might be coming to the channel and looking for a little bit of humanity on this AI radio show. This is where you can interact with me directly. I've been making a lot of videos here lately and kind of been behind a glass wall here. But I wanted to do something that I have fun with and is a good way to interact with the audience. So, anyways, here we are, and we're ready to start out. We have a couple options here, either mouse or WASD. Can also use the controller. I'm going to go ahead and stick with either mouse or WASD. In this case, let's go ahead and go with mouse, because that is what I've been using so far, and it's been working out for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with that. But this is kind of the first thing here, is like when you have the choice between mouse, WASD, or controller, all of them work. I've been playing with the controller recently, and the controller scheme is really nice. For this video, we won't get too much into that. In future videos, I might talk about the differences a little bit more, but for now, let's just go ahead and get going here. So first off, we're going to talk to this guy here, and we'll just kind of click through this. We don't want to spend too much time because you can go through the story at your leisure. All right. So we have our first weapon. Okay. So we want to equip our item. Now, here it's telling us to left click the menu here. So if you want to take a look at your different menu options, this is where it is. However, if you want to open your inventory quickly, if you're using keyboard mouse, then you can just press I on the keyboard. And then from here, okay, all we got to do is we're just going to drag that up and put that in our slot, and we're going to hit X out on that. Okay, we're good to go. So now we're getting started, and let's just take a look at a couple things here. So we have our map here up at the top right hand corner, and if you press tab on the keyboard, I believe this is down or up on the D-pad for the controller, then you can actually bring your map kind of here into the center so that it's really easy to kind of track your movements and see where you're going. And then from there, we can start our attack. So with the Ranger, we're nice and ranged, so we can keep a distance. And that's not a bad thing in Path of Exile, because you're going to find here pretty quick that you're going to get overwhelmed. And having a little bit of range is not a bad thing. I would say that the most difficult character class that I've played with so far, and I haven't gotten very far with it, is the warrior class. That's something that I am thinking I'm going to play that with the controller because it just kind of feels a little bit better, more suited for that. But so, we're just kind of going through the early level here. And what I could tell you from the early level, it is a good idea to, I think, to kind of stick to the edges and unlock the entirety of the map and then little by little kind of like hone in. And it is a good idea to to do the entire map when you're starting out, because there are a couple of little things here and there that you might want to pick up, and it's not a huge deal if you bypass them, but it's a good introduction to the game. And generally speaking, that's how I play the game, is to stick to the edges and uncover everything first and then kind of go inward from there. But that's up to you how you play. Sometimes you can just kind of fire through it, and that kind of becomes a little bit more common, I think, later on in the game. You kind of spend less time uncovering the edges and more time just kind of going for your objective. But one of the things that's important to note about Path of Exile 2 is that the maps are going to change. I have to look into this to double check. Like, actually, let's go ahead and just do that really quick. I'm going to look into this and find out exactly what are the details when it comes to the map changing with Path of Exile 2. I believe that the way that it works is that it's the same map, depending on, no matter what character you're playing, it's the same map, but what it does is it changes sort of where you're coming in from. So in this case, our ranger started over here and it's kind of coming this way, but the map can be flipped and you can start from the opposite end and kind of make your way this way. So I've seen both. I don't think it's procedurally generated. I think it's just the same map and it kind of switches up. But let's go ahead and just take a quick look at that and find out for sure. Okay, so it looks like I was wrong about that. It looks as though the maps are procedurally generated, which means most areas outside of major towns are randomly generated each time the players enter them. So that's interesting. I thought that it was the same map and then maybe it just kind of flipped or something, but it does appear that they are actually procedurally generated. So that's good to know. And that's kind of, when you play the different maps, you're always going to have to uncover them, or typically you have to uncover them after a short amount of time. They will reset, but it always kind of keeps things interesting as far as like trying to find your next objective. So here we have a new item, our quiver. And depending on the class that you play, you're going to find different things in your boxes. So here we have our quiver, and this adds 3 physical damage to attacks. Okay, so that's good to know. We'll go ahead and continue on from here. And just kind of sticking to the edges. I think the edge kind of comes up here a little bit. Let's just keep going down here. Okay, so here we go. Here we have another chest. So this is one of the reasons why it's a good idea to make sure that you uncover the entire map up front, because there might be some important things that I think you can get them later on in the game, but it's just important to start off on the right foot. So we got our lightning arrow, so let's go ahead and grab that. That's our skill gem. So this is our first skill gem, right? So skill gems, when you get them, are kind of what they sound like. They give you skills. So in this case, the lightning arrow converts 40% of physical damage to lightning damage. It cannot chain. So that's important to note. Fires a charged arrow at the target. On hitting an enemy or wall, the arrow will fire chaining lightning beams at nearby enemies. So that's a little bit... okay, what are we looking at here? So I think that the basic... when you fire will chain, but then it also converts 40% of physical damage to lightning damage that doesn't chain. Beam targeting radius is 2.44 meters. Fire beams at up to 2 additional enemies near the target. Okay. So it's a little bit, the verbiage there is a little bit confusing, but let's just continue on here. So we're going to left click the gem and we're going to stick it in our slot. And then here we want to bind the skill. So we're going to click left click here where the arrow is pointing. And then you can see here now we can slot our ability. And I'm going to go ahead and put it here in our right click. So this is how we now can use that ability. And the same concept applies with the controller. You're going to apply your abilities to whatever button on the controller you want to, whatever you're comfortable with. And I would encourage you to kind of play around with that a little bit, because there are times when some abilities are more suited for different buttons. So here we have a checkpoint and we have this wall here. So I'm kind of interested here. What exactly is it? Oh, I see. Right click to use the skill. Okay, so it's not going to let us pass the wall until we complete the tutorial, what it's telling us to do. So here we go. We have our checkpoint. And if you click a checkpoint, then you're going to see this is going to open up your map. And if you see this blue icon here, if you see it at different points of the map, then you can fast travel to those different checkpoints. So that's important to know. Checkpoints replenish your health, mana, and flasks. So that's another good thing to know as well. Now, it seems to indicate that it wants me to do something here. But let's just go ahead and leave that. I guess it's just hanging out there next to the checkpoint. We'll continue on. Okay, so yeah, there is a little bit of chaining action there going on with that lightning. And that's to be expected. These guys here, this is a good reason to stay ranged, because when you are playing melee, ranged enemies can be really problematic sometimes. So it's really nice to have that. Okay, so now I have my flask set to mouse 5. You can set this wherever you want, but that's where I like it. It's on my mouse here. So it's telling us to do that. So let's go ahead and do it. And there we are. We're all charged up now. This is a good moment here to let you know. So you could see the icon, the life icon above my character's head and also above the enemies as well. And this is something that is not necessarily defaulted. So if you want to change that, if you go to your menu, select options, you can also press O for options. And then what we want to do is go to, I think it's interface here. Let's just double check. Yes. So here you have it. Show mini life bar above you. Show mini life bar above NPCs. I have this checked and I have this set to allies and enemies. Also, another thing here is I have this set to always highlight. Items and objects such as chests and waypoints will always be highlighted. So those are just some tips I would recommend. You don't have to, but I like it better when you can see your own health bar and the health bar of the enemies. It just helps for making decisions a little bit better in the game. But that's not something that's default, that's set up by default. So you might want to update your settings. All right, so we have now leveled up for the first time, so that's great. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and I just want to make sure there's no enemies in the area. Okay, let's go ahead and check up our passive skill tree. So first off here, so we have our character in the beginning. Depending on what character you choose, you will be going on a different path through the skill tree here. And so you could see here with our ranger, we have two options up front. We have either plus 16 to evasion, or we have 10% increased projectile damage. I think that's more important for me, but this is like just a part of how Path of Exile works. Is as you level up, you're going to be going through all of these different nodes and have to make some important decisions about what you choose to upgrade. This is where a lot of the fun is in Path of Exile, because you can really tailor the gameplay to your preference. And we'll just continue on here. Okay, so we've got another checkpoint. Okay, so now we have our end game here. We've got our boss in the, not end game, but we have the boss here at the end of the level here. And you can see that we still have a fair amount of the map to uncover. So let's go ahead and just stick with that for now. I'm dying here. Let's not do that. So that's something to be aware of, is just make sure you keep an eye on your health, because things can get pretty hairy fast. And Path of Exile can be quite unforgiving. What we want to do here at some point is we want to, I prefer having an energy shield. I'm not sure if other people can attest to the benefits of using armor over an energy shield, but personally I like having an energy shield. So that's something that we haven't yet had the opportunity to update that, but we will do that here as soon as we can. Okay, so there's a little bit of, let's see here. All right, probably not worth going over there. I'm just going to bypass that. We'll just stick here. And if you have hung out for this long, you're still with me, thanks so much for hanging out. I'll try to do more of these in the future, and just continue to build this channel. Also, if you're listening, I've got a new video coming out here pretty soon. I'm pretty happy about it. Making some final changes before I publish that. So keep your eyes open. Okay, I think we have unlocked everything, and didn't find any other chests, but that's fine. That just gives you an idea of what to expect here. Okay. And now we have our first big boss. One thing that I was doing early on is I was kind of clicking the button whenever I was attacking. You can actually hold the button down to attack, so that's kind of important to know if you don't pick up on that right away. Okay, so now we're going to dodge by pressing spacebar. I think that's B on controller. Pretty sure. Another thing we want to take a look at here, you can see on the right hand side that our mana is going down. So, uh-oh. So this is where the chaining comes in handy. All right, let's go ahead and fill up our mana here because it's not looking good. Let's go ahead and... I'm just going to use my basic attack for now until our minions show up. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so that lightning arrow is really quite nice. Uh-oh, no more mana. Okay. I'll go ahead and fill that up. Your mana and your health, well, your mana does go up little by little. I don't think your health does early on. You actually need to get special upgrades to get that perk so that your health is regenerating. I think we're pretty close here. There we go. All right. So we managed to get through our first boss. And now we get our loot. Okay, so chainmail, twig circlet, rawhide boots. Okay, so this twig circlet has an energy shield on it, so I'm definitely going to want to add that. And the next thing here is it's unidentified. So this is a good time to point out scrolls of wisdom. So we got some scrolls of wisdom here. We're going to right click that, and then we're going to left click to identify an item. And this, in addition to energy shield also has 1.1 life regen per second. So that's really nice. We want that. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And when I do, you're going to see now that our energy shield is going to show up here on the right hand side, or the left hand side rather. And you can also see that my health is coming up a little bit too. So I always try to make sure that I have life regen and an energy shield. You don't have to, but personally, I just feel like those are the most important kind of upgrades that you want to use. And we've got some boots and we've got some chainmail. Let's go ahead and put on both of those for now. We might change that up a little bit later, but for now, let's do what we can to get our character kind of beefed up. So you can see here now how our inventory is starting to come together. And we've got our kind of main things here. And I'm feeling pretty good about this right now. So we've got our shield, we've got our life regen. And now we can go ahead and enter in the first base area, which is Clearfell. Okay, and then as far as this tutorial goes, I'm not going to go much further past Clearfell. This is a pretty good place to stop, but let's just take a look at a few things that might be important here for this beginner's guide. Here we have our first NPC. I'm just going to go ahead and go through really quick. So here we go. We've got our reward, which is an uncut skill gem. Okay. So let's go ahead and use this uncut skill gem. So we're going to right click that, and that's going to bring us to this page. And depending on what kind of weapon you're using will determine how you can apply your skill gem. So we've already got the lightning arrow, and we have 3 other options here that we can take a look at. Okay, so let's make a decision here. So we've got our poison burst arrow, we've got our escape shot, and we've got our lightning rod. So let's see what they do. Poison burst fires a virulent arrow that creates a burst of poison on hit, affecting all enemies in an area. That sounds pretty good. Escape shot. Leap backwards and fire an arrow which can chill or freeze enemies around the location that you escaped from. That's pretty good too. Lightning rod. Fire an arrow that drops from above, creating a lightning burst. This arrow remains in the ground, and any chaining lightning beams can chain to it. When chained to, the arrows release another lightning burst. Well, we already have a lightning ability, which I quite like, and we could, in this case, decide to go with a character that's more focused on lightning. This might help when it comes to upgrading our character, leveling up, because depending on the updates we choose, if we want to beef up our lightning abilities, then that might not be a bad idea. But I really like the idea of this poison arrow. So let's go ahead and stick with poison. I think that is how I would prefer to do that. So we've now engraved our gem, our skill gem, and it's become a proper skill gem. So it was an uncut skill gem before, now it is a skill gem, and we can apply it. So I'm going to right click that, and then here we can see, rather left click, and we can see here that we can slot that. And we also have a couple of additional slots here that we could take a look at what those do later, but essentially you can add additional refiners, modifiers to your abilities, and that happens a bit later on in the game. So we have that now. We also want to apply it. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put this, I have my skills set up this way. I have my skills set up on WASD. So I'm going to put that on my D. And that's just how I like to have it set up. That's one of the nice things about Path of Exile is you can really kind of, especially on keyboard mouse, you can really kind of play with the buttons and get them where you're most comfortable with them. So we've got that set up. Happy with that. And first thing we want to take a look at is our waypoint here. So here we have a waypoint. It's going to open up our map, and you can see here an idea of how Path of Exile 2 works as far as the map goes. So we have, whenever we have an objective, it's going to show up with this kind of spike above it. So this is where we want to be going next. in the meantime, here is where we are. One thing that I'm going to note here is that it doesn't appear that there is a waypoint for the opening level. So that's one of the reasons why I say that you might not. It might be a good idea to just make sure that you scour all the edges there, just to make sure you don't miss anything, because you can't go back. So that's something that I just want to point out. And next thing we have is we have our well. So the well is used to recharge your flasks and also recharge your charms. We don't have any charms right now, but at some point we'll get gear that will allow us to put charms in. And once we do, then the well will refill the charges on the charms as well. So we just can click on that, and then we're all filled up and our health is back, and we can move on from there. So we have our first character over here who wants to talk. We can talk to her, accept the quest. She's got a couple other things to say, but we're not going to worry too much about that, because what we want to focus on mostly here is the disenchant items option. So if we click on that, so you're going to see a page similar to this, and here we have an item, and it does not have a transmutation shard. I want to say it's transmutation shard. What happens with this is if an item can be disenchanted, then what happens is you get a transmutation shard, and if you gather 10 of those, then you get a transmutation orb, which can be used to upgrade your ability. So it's a good idea if you ever pick stuff up that you don't plan to use, but you want to disenchant it, then that's one of the decision-making process that you're going to use when it comes to like managing your inventory here. So here we have our shield, and we can't disenchant it, but I just want to give you an idea of how that works. And then what we would do is if you're on keyboard mouse, you can actually just hold down the control button and click whatever it is that you want to disenchant. Otherwise, you can drag it over, but that just takes a little bit longer. Just cancel out of that. So also we can buy and sell items. So she's got some scrolls of wisdom, she's got some rings, some flasks, a few other things, but I don't, unless there's something specific that you're looking for, generally speaking, most of the gear you find is going to be out in the field. So he's not really saying too much right now. Next thing we have here is we have the salvage bench. Now, the thing that's important to note about the salvage bench is that if you're starting off, you're probably not going to see this, because this is something that I have access to now because I've already completed this in game, where you can get the tools, and that's part of a quest that Renly gives you. And then you get the tools and you have the salvage bench, but it is a good opportunity to show you just kind of how this works, because you'll see here, you can click on this, and then from here, you can click on certain items in order to salvage them. Now, not every item will work. Let me see if this one does. No. So this one's not going to. The reason being is because it will only salvage gear that has slots or has quality. I think those are the two main things that you need on an item in order to be able to salvage it. So that's important to note as well. So that is our beginner's guide to Path of Exile 2. I could get into some more detail, but this is just, we'll get you started and kind of give you an idea of what to expect when you're beginning with Path of Exile 2. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment and like and subscribe, and we'll see you again in the next one.